All right, so today we got an engine that has a compression relief problem. And the first indication you know that you have a compression relief problem is when you try to start it, it just gets stuck. The starter can't turn it. You can do several things to kind of check it. One of the things you can do is, and we're going to do that here in a minute, we'll check our valves to see if there's that little bump on the valve. I'll explain it. But what it's doing is, here we have the new crankshaft with the compression relief. So the compression relief is this right here. The pin here, so when your lifter comes around, it comes up, it lifts up the valve, comes around, and then it bumps right over this little pin right here. As the engine starts, the centrifugal force pulls this out, and you might see that this pin is flat. So it's round on that side, and it comes around, and it's flat, and now the valve comes around and there's no bump. Well, if this breaks off, then you don't get that bump and the engine can't turn over past the compression. First thing we're going to do is we've got to take out the rods. We'll take off the overhead valve cover. I've already taken this off and put it back on. So now the worst part about this whole job is cleaning gasket material and silicone. It takes a lot of time. Okay, so to demonstrate what I was talking about this bump, you go to the intake side of the valve. So this is exhaust, this is intake, comes from the carburetor, and you turn your flywheel. And that one is closed. So this is open now. And then you come around to this side. And as this comes up, if I turn it a little bit more, it should do this little bounce around that pin that I showed you on the crankshaft. So this should kind of go in a little bit, but it doesn't. So we know it's broke. So the other thing I did to verify that it was broke was I shoved my magnet down into the oil fill hole. This is a flexible magnet, and when I pulled it out, you might see there was a piece of metal in the sump. So that's a good indication that it's broke. Okay, so now we're going to take out these rods. What we're going to do is loosen the locking torque screw, and then we can loosen the tappet itself. And here is an aluminum rod for the intake. This one's aluminum. It has to go into this side. And you'll see wear marks on that. That means this is on the outside. You want to make sure you put it back in correctly. Now, there is a cap right here. You don't want to lose that cap, so you got to make sure you take that off. Now we'll take off the exhaust. This one is steel. Again, you can see the wear marks. I'll show you the difference from the steel and the aluminum. And again, we're going to take that cap off. Okay, so now I've turned the engine over. This is the oil sump here. And here we have an oil pump. We're going to remove the oil pump. Gasket there that we're going to save. we'll end up replacing that. Okay, so now we're going to take off the sump itself. We've got 10 bolts here. I think it's 10, if I recall. Turn up the torque on my torque wrench. There's probably Loctite on it. Yep, there's Loctite on it. Okay, so now we're going to have to tap this off. You can use a rubber mallet, or I just use a piece of wood, and you have some corners here that you can work with to pop it off. You don't want to use the oil drain here. You don't want to pop it off with that, or the oil filter. So pretty rusted is what my problem is, so it's jamming up on the old seal. There it went. Okay, so now we're going to take off the governor. I've replaced a governor before. I've showed you how to do that. You want to make sure that it's okay, because, you know, there was metal parts in there. Okay, so let's remove the camshaft. Now the first thing I want to do is make sure that I've got it lined up in a fashion that I'll show you on the new one. So there is a metal indentation right there, but there's also a metal indentation on the gear opposed to it. So you want to make sure that it's on this side, so you can line that back up, because that's for your timing. And we'll take this out. Okay, so you can see that it is that pin, that whole assembly is missing. So here's the new one with that piece on it. This one's missing, so now I got to go down there and try to find it. Now the biggest part, like I said, I think I said this earlier in the video, the biggest part to this job is cleaning. So I'm going to have to clean the gaskets off of it, clean everything out of there, get a magnet in there, get all the metal pieces out. So I'll do that off camera. Before I do that, I should have showed you that I got to get the lifters out, because we're going to replace those also. Okay, so I got it as clean as I think I can get it. Got the sump and the crankcase fairly clean. Okay, so now we're going to put the lifters in. So now we're going to line up our camshaft, put it back in. So here you'll see now, maybe, hopefully, that I've got this dot and this dot lined up. And then we're going to put our governor back in. Now we want to make sure that we get the gears on the governor, on the gears on the crankshaft. Okay, so I need to get the old seal out of there. There it is. And then we'll get the new one put back in. Oh, good thing we took that out. That's filthy dirty. Okay, so there's the new seal. I'm going to put a little bit of oil here. Put some oil on the ring or the seal itself. And I have a socket. We're going to gently tap it. Now, there's no way for me to show you, but there is a hole in the side of the sump here. And that hole provides oil to the seal. So you want to make sure you don't cover that hole, otherwise you won't get any oil to the seal. If you ever take one of these apart, you'll see the hole. There is a lip before the hole, so the seal should stop on that lip. Okay, so now we're going to put the gasket on. They do a pretty good job packing these gaskets. So it's on a piece of cardboard inside the envelope. I think it even sticks to the cardboard. So you got to be careful. No, not this time. And then you got to figure out the puzzle. Oh yeah, did I figure it out the first time? Wow, look at that. We're going to put the sump back on. Now when you do this, you got to be, oh, you know, I should oil it. I should oil this because you don't want to roll that seal. See, I'm going to show you. Nobody ever shows you on YouTube what that means. There's a spring in here. On this old one, the spring has fallen out, so there's no spring. But what you are wanting to do, as you put this down, this can roll on you and that spring can pop out. So as you push it down, you take a screwdriver and you try to weasel that rubber down so it doesn't roll up and make that spring pop out. Okay, so we're going to come down under that seal. Okay, I did some of it off camera because see, this shaft is rusty, so it's being a little bit more cantankerous than normal. So I've had to tap it a little bit more than I am comfortable with. But I have not rolled that seal yet. But you can see I'm pushing that seal inside to make sure that it doesn't roll on me. And then I can tap it a little. It started to roll there. To be honest, that's the first time I've ever had one start to roll. These seals are $9, so it's not the end of the world, but the shipping cost would be a little high. Alright, so I got it past the rust spot finally. I shut the camera off so you didn't have to see that. I'm amazed I got that right with that rust. That was tough. Okay, so we'll put our oil pump back together. This is new. I probably should put some oil on that. And it doesn't matter which way you put it in. And then if you take these out with a magnet and put them together, keep them together, you don't have to try to figure out how to put it back together because it's kind of a puzzle. And then, oh, I did it on the first try, it looks like. You got to turn this so the screws line up correctly. But I did it right on the first try. That's amazing. Okay, so we're going to put some blue Loctite on this. And we'll put the 10 bolts back in. Alright, so I'm going to run these down just until they get snug, because I'm going to torque these with a torque wrench. So I'm not even worried about the pattern right now. I'm just going to snug them down and then come back around. Okay, so now I'm going to torque it to 220 inch-pounds, excuse me. But I'm going to take it in 3-step increments. So I think it's going to be like 74, and then the next step, and then the 220. So what we're going to do is just tighten it until it clicks. Okay, so it clicked. Now we're going to cross pattern it, and I do have a cross pattern. And I'll just continue on, and I'll tighten this up and off camera. Okay, so now we're going to put the rods in, and gotta make sure they go in there correctly. Now remember, we put the steel one on the exhaust, which is the top, and the aluminum one down on the bottom, and we want to make sure our wear marks are at the top here, facing us. And now what I like to do is I like to turn it to make sure that they're going to lift properly. Okay, I know you can't see it, but I felt it, which is all I needed to do to confirm. And then we're going to put our caps back on. Okay, there was the bump right there. So there is a bump now. And I can hear it click over it too. Okay, so we'll adjust the valves. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure one of these are down and the other one's up. Okay, that one's down, so this one should be up. We're going to stick a 4/1000 feeler gauge in there. Too tight. And then we're going to tighten this down. Check it. And then we're going to put a 7 in there to make sure a 7 does not go. That worked. Put the 4 back in there to make sure it's good and tight. It is. 7 won't go. Then we're going to turn it again. Bring the other one up. Bring the one we just worked on down. 4/1000 feeler gauge. Seven does not go. Okay, so I got all the silicone cleaned off of it. So I'm going to replace it with a gasket. I got a bunch of these for like 10 bucks. Make sure your HV is on the upside because your part number is right there. So that's it for today. I hope I can inspire you to fix something today so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.